What is happening, budget builders, and welcome back to the channel. We recently took a trip up to Maryland to pick up a really cool small car, and while we were up there, we found something else we had to bring down with us. This is a 1969 Volvo 145S Wagon. It is a 65,000 original mile, 2-owner, and it has been sitting since 2011. And in today's video, we're gonna attempt to bring this thing back to life.
How's it going? I'm Michael and this is Budget Builds. My dad and I bring rusty, crusty old cars back to life.
So I'm sure you'll notice that thumbnail. The car was quite a bit dirtier. This car had actually been sitting up underneath trees and it was nasty. You can see up underneath this engine bay, it hasn't been touched. It is gross. The whole car was, but we picked it up from a couple fellas, one named Will and his brother. They own Tow Pros LLC up there. Super cool guys and extremely nice, and they hooked us up with this cool ride. But they were actually the ones that got the opportunity to rescue this from the family of the gentleman that owned it. On their way home, they did stop at a car wash and spray this thing down and blast it, and that's why it looks the way it does. It obviously needs a ton more cleanup work and some detailing to really bring this thing back to life, starting here in this engine bay. But that is a first for us not to be able to get to clean it, but we're more than happy to have the opportunity to bring this car back home with us from Maryland and bring it back to life. You can see just how cool and original this interior is. Look at these door panels. Original seats, super cool floor mats, a bunch of random parts back here, including a rear bumper. You can see this one has a slight bend, but it has that new old stock bumper. Very, very solid car. Just a couple little rust bubbles right there, but underneath is very solid. Such a gorgeous dash. Automatic, which is kind of odd. Oh my. You can see the last time this car was registered was 2011. We've got some fuses. And this used to be anti-fog mitt. That's nice. While you're right there, Dad, let's see if this motor turns over, if you don't mind. That's the big telltale for us. Oh yeah. Nice. We need to get all this rat's nest and stuff cleaned out of here. Let's blow it off. Let's pull these spark plugs and see if we check out the condition of these cylinders first. Let's get this thing running. Let's pull this dipstick. Nice, not too shabby. Actually, can't complain with that. No water, that's always a good sign. I'd like to say the way this car looks that it was in a nice environment, but obviously it was just sitting outside for all those years. But I think we'll be okay. With it turning over free and the oil looking good, we just need to get spark and fuel. And maybe it'll run. We do not want to get started on this engine bay pulling plugs out without getting some of this trash pulled out of here. So much crud, especially on the top of this engine, all this rat's nest and everything, we don't want down in any cylinders. lot of sitting. Probably gonna have some kind of nest in here, I'd imagine. Surprisingly, not too bad. Actually looks pretty good down in here. Being SUs, there's a good possibility that one's free. Those are nice and free, but on our little MGs and stuff, these are always frozen solid. But these seem to be okay. Now we can go ahead and get these spark plugs popped out. Kind of just set our wires down in order here. Not too bad. See what we got. Looks pretty good. Older Autolite. May swap those out for something a little better. Again, older plug. Cylinder side looks pretty good. Little bit of crust right there. So there may be some moisture issues potentially, but we know it spins over fairly freely. Just by hand. Another pretty good looking cylinder. Crusty old plug, but the side we want to look good looks good. And again, not too shabby. There we go. With some lubricant penetrating oil. I'll just soak the whole motor down while I'm at it. One thing that we don't have that's going to be kind of fun is keys. Door keys or an ignition key. It got lost in the estate at some point of time, I guess with the gentleman that owned it. And we do not have keys. I'm going to try to pop the bottom off here and see if we can get access to the back side of the ignition switch to be able to take it loose and use a screwdriver, something kind of like we did with the 911, because I doubt you can get replacement ignition switches for these. So I'll probably have to get a locksmith to come out or take it to one and get him to make those for us, because we don't want to tear anything up that we can't replace on this car. These 3 little screws later, and it's nice and floppy. Let's see, there we go. Oh my, what is all that? It's always nice to find in the bottom of your column cover. I did notice, and probably has something to do with as long as this thing is sat and how old this car is, the plastic bushing is completely gone, both on here and on the other end, on the outside there for your shifter. It must be something common, probably just a cheap, see how pretty the plastics are in this car. Other than that right there, must have just been something they did that did not last very long. 2 little flathead screws, and we now have a usable ignition switch. Sorry, but I need to borrow you. Negative. What do we have? Uh-oh. Power on the dash. I'm gonna give it a little bump. Oh boy. Now with it turning over, it's time to go ahead and let's see if we've got fire. Wait, no. You know what? Scratch that. Before I turn this thing over anymore, let's jump up underneath, drain that oil, make sure we don't have any crazy trash in there. We don't want to be pushing that around in this engine very much, knowing how long this gal's been sitting. Okay, let's go to see what kind of oil this little B20 has in it. It's this size wrench. Oh wow, it's tight. Going the right way. There she goes. The pattern's almost too big. Well, I guess it's time to make a mess. Not too bad. Definitely dark. older oil. No water or anything though, so that's good. Beautiful placement of that oil filter right over the exhaust. And that thing has been on there a long time. Wow, it's tight. I was able to get it wrenched off, and we did have some oil flow, so that's always nice to see. We obviously didn't crank it over enough to push a ton, but that shows we did have some oil pressure. We've got a nice new filter here. Good old Purolator. And it never hurts with something that sat this long to pre-lube the filter a certain amount. Now this engine, this B20, does call for a 20W50. Went ahead because it is a nice low mileage engine, especially. Grab that VR1 racing oil, 2050, high zinc. The same that we run in the 911. It'll be worth it in this car. Whew, stuff is. But if you're a budget builder, like we are, Advance, $34. AutoZone, $26.99, so 27 bucks. So in case you wondered, with right at 4 quarts and a filled oil filter, we are right at the full. Now I want to take the time and let's turn it over a little bit and see if that oil light comes on. We've put fresh oil down on top of everything by pouring it in. And let's see what we get before we put plugs in or anything. So I did actually go ahead and turn this thing over for probably 30 to 45 seconds before it primed up and that oil light came off. But that is good, knowing that we have fresh, thick oil in there. It's kind of cool this morning that it was able to pick up and have oil pressure. So that's nice to see. Before we do anything more, I can't help but see if it has sparked before we dig into anything. I've got our wire pulled off from our coil. Let's spin it over and see if it jumps off or not. Kind of hard to believe, as crusty as this thing is, that it has fire. But I did pop the cap off, and look how nice it actually still looks down in there. And that just goes to show a nice seal on a distributor will go a long ways. Always makes you wonder why a car got parked. It is showing that the fuel tank is completely empty. I noticed it has that fuel pump's been on there quite a while, fuel pump, but here is the original. So it makes me wonder if they were having some kind of fuel delivery issues when this car was parked, and that's why it was parked. We have fresh oil, good oil pressure. We know we have good spark. We need fuel. Even though that fuel pump is older, let's test and see if we can get it to work. The gas in this thing is disgusting. It smells horrible. We don't want to pump a ton of that through. So we have some nice fresh in our tank, which I've run over into our fuel pump, and we're going to try to pump it into this little jar and see what we get. If it works, maybe we'll put fuel to these carburetors. They are SUs. This one's pretty stiff. This one seems like it's low on oil, so I may need to top the oil off in the dash pot there. Dad did pop these 2 bolts off, and this thing wasn't moving at first, but it actually ended up falling. And what was weird is that it stayed there. With the pressure of the cam and your drive, it normally pushes right off, and I can already see that's not right. Ready to drop a pan? It's probably fine because it's down in there, but I bet they were supposed to put this shim on, that spacer on, and it was too much. It just popped it right off. Well, I think we found why this car got parked. I wonder if that one probably doesn't work, but I can take it apart and put this drive lever in there. That's what we gonna do, I guess. Not sure if you can see, but thankfully, woo, that cam looks nice down in there. You can see we have these things ripped all apart over here. We were going to try to replace the arm, but where it drives is quite a bit different here. We're going to see if possibly the diaphragm will fit on this one, because you can see how crispy and crunched up. This is hard as a rock. It was not doing anything anymore, and that's why you replaced it. Or whoever replaced it, they just didn't replace it correctly. We're going to try to do that the right way now. With some finagling, making things work, we got that diaphragm in this fuel pump. And now maybe we can have some fuel pressure. Make sure when you change things like your fuel pump, most of y'all probably know, check your tolerances. If it has a plate, more than likely what that means is this fuel pump right here is for 5 or 6 different engines, and you use that little back space plate to make it work for this B20 right here. With that being said, one thought I had might be really good that's one of the best outcomes I would say for the reason it got parked. One other thing is I bet those were run dry. So it makes you wonder, maybe they're nice and clean in there. We'll see here in just a minute. Let's see if we have fuel pressure. Go ahead and get this thing turning over, pumping, and see what we get. I'm not 100% sure that will be enough fuel pressure. Can't help but try though. Let's hook it all up and see what it does. Priming our fuel system here. Let's see if these carburetors overflow or not. They were empty. That's a good sign. You're probably wondering about that little piece that fell off down there. It dropped straight to the bottom of the pan with the screen on the bottom, especially not driving it. We know we don't have anything to worry about. Before we take it on a good road test or really start trying to daily drive something like this, we'll probably want to drop that pan and take care of that. But for an initial startup, I don't see us having any kind of issues. All right, you ready to see what this old Volvo will do? Let's do it. Fingers crossed, here we go.
Air one.
You gotta be kidding me! Oil pressure like it run yesterday. We'll see if that fuel pump holds up enough or if it's just running off with some of those carburetors. Now you give me a high five.
There you go.
Oh! Sounds great. How stinking cool. Give it a couple revs for me and then let's check our coolant level and everything. Cut right off. Holy cow. It smells like straight burn up rat nest in here right now. Good grief. I should have cleaned that engine off a little better. If y'all had smell-o-vision, you'd be smelling all that rat's nest. Good grief. But wow. I did notice, so the little, I can't remember exactly. This is your dash pot. I can't remember exactly what you call these little things. Like I mentioned before, this one has oil. See how it kind of lifts up? It sticks a little bit. That might, I think some run time, but this one is low on oil. See how it just kind of rides around? We need to top that off. If I remember right, it's like just a straight 30 weight you run in those, but I'll verify. We'll get that topped off. We'll get our air cleaner back on it. It is showing coolant in here, but neither of these open. Oh my goodness, and this one's on plastic. Yeah, those have been on there a long time. You can see it looks like we've had some leaking going on, but it has coolant in it. We do want to get it topped off to the max here. But it sounds really good, as long as I have not checked. We know this is an automatic. Nice clean fluid. It smells like crayons. It took a, whew. Wow. That's Maryland for you. We're showing, I don't know, reserve, whatever that is on the tank. I would like this fuel system to work, although the gas smells bad. It does have a drain. Right there. Let's pull that plug and see what comes out of this thing.
Ready?
Yup. Get it drained out. Get some fresh in here. So you can get the fuel system working. We'll go ahead and top these off. It uses a 20 weight oil. This one is not bad, but it is low. And we know this one is really low, and that'll give you issues with how it runs. You can overfill these. It'll just burn it off through the intake, right back down to its level. What we want to do, like I said, just about a 1/4 inch. You can see the little line there. We'll basically fill it up to. Drop our plungers back in, and that should help some of our running and make our carburetors a little happier. All right.
Oh, yeah. 1/4 inch from the top.
1/4 inch from the top. There you go. Slam full. Now we can see those working more like a plunger. Filter's blown out, reinstalled, fuel line hooked up. We'll see if this fuel system actually wants to work. Coolant topped off. Brakes have fluid. That looks like one of the last things he did. There's also a old master cylinder, so he must have been working on the fuel and the brakes at the same time. So the brakes actually do still work. Now the only thing, yeah, those tires, I don't think they're the originals, but they're definitely from probably the 70s. They look really good, but they are really dry. Can you even get stuff like that anymore?
Oh, it's got an outside on it.
Nova.
Water heater.
That's a fancy old tire. That'll be good enough to go up and down the road right here with. Let's fire it up, see what it does, and maybe attempt to take it for a drive.
Oh, look at here. All the way up the side. Just
Yeah, it'll be good. That's 100 mile per hour rated.
yeah.
I think I'd mentioned it already, but you can see that bushing right there is a little plastic bushing is completely gone. Things like the windows are unglued just from this thing sitting for so long. And this bushing right here is completely gone. I don't even know if I can get stuff like that. If y'all know that I can or know where I can find those, please let me know. Otherwise, we're gonna have to try to manufacture something to work in that. But for now, what we'll have to do is I'll get in the car and Dad'll have to shift it down into gear. Woo! Oh man, this is burning off some crap. Doesn't sound terrible though. Oh, let me shift the right thing. That felt like gear, didn't it? You might just pat the pedal a little bit. Go ahead. First drive since 2011. Putsy around, see how it do. Take it easy though. She's a brick. Hey, we ain't got no gas cap on that thing. This needs to be his daily driver. Oh, look how cool that car is. We ain't got no gas cap.
No, I don't need
Pull it
no
up to the
gas
shop.
cap.
Let's check everything over. Let's get this thing out on the road. That's 100 mile per hour rated. Such a solid little car. Just these couple little bubbles underneath. The emergency brake works. How weird. It's on the left side and the little light works. Wow, that just really goes to show the true mileage of this car. Everything functions. It's just such great condition. See if reverse works. Watch the Lincoln.
I ain't worried about it. Well, the pedal kept falling.
she goes. He can't shift. I gotta catch up. How'd it do? Did it shift at all?
It shifted in a second.
Woohoo! That might be all it has. I don't know. A little bit of exhaust rattle. You can see it shaking around under there. Sounds pretty good so far, though. Take us for a spin, Pop Pop.
Takes a while for it to engage.
Wow, this thing's a dog. It's cool though. Some funny little noises. Lord. This thing's cool. Oh, this car's so neat. Look how the speedo climbs. How cool is that?
That's third.
Third gear. Woo! Good. I got it.
You ready?
Yep.
You're gonna be fat. This thing is by no means a speed demon. What in the world did I just say? This thing is by no means a speed demon, but it will have more. You can see right here, it's missing that bushing. With all these hard plastics, that must have been a common thing to, after sitting, crinkle away and disintegrate. So we need to get that. We need to get our shifter bushings. And we need to do a full detail on this car. This car is so original. It appears it's had one repaint in its life. But look how pretty this interior is. Well, I say pretty. It's kind of gross right now, but it's not terribly, terribly gross. Oh, this thing will be so pretty detailed up. I'm going to do full interior, underneath, engine bay. Before you see that, you will see a complete detail on the Lincoln. I'll give you a little sneak peek. Look at that pretty big ride. But that will wrap it up for this episode. I don't know about y'all, but I love bringing these old cars back to life after being forgotten for so many years. This one, we've had quite a few so far, and we have a lot more coming. If you all enjoy this revival kind of stuff, bringing these cars back to life and back into general circulation for people to enjoy again, be sure to hit that subscribe button, notification bell. If you are already a follower, thank you all so much for the positive love and support that we've had so far on this channel. We really do appreciate it so incredibly much. But that'll wrap it up. Peace out, and catch you all on the flip side.